All right, I am Chloe Alice Balkin. These are my hands. And I have just spent the last 15 minutes trying to figure out which shitty camera angle was the best shitty camera angle. Spoiler alert, they are all shitty. So, this is day 2 of my One Block Wonder. In case I didn't mention it yesterday, I read directions on how to do this a year at least ago. Let me get that off the screen. And there we go. Hello. Hello. I read directions how to do this thing years ago and was like, I'm real smart. I could just figure this out on my own. So basically, I didn't actually mess anything up. What I've got here are these fun little pinwheels that were made of this ridiculous cat fabric. This is cat fabric. I made them yesterday, and basically it's going to be like a kaleidoscope cat tapestry quilt. And when I put them all together, I decided to pin them. And after some debate, I decided to pin them the wrong way. So usually you would pin the bad side, or like the good side together, the bad side out. I pinned them this way so I could see the color of them best when I decided the layout for them. And now I've realized that, like, I kept saying, I must have said it at least 200 times in yesterday's video that that I was going to be losing a good chunk of these images in the seam allowances, which is the extra fabric that is turned in if you are watching this, but you are not actually a quilter or any kind of sewer. I'll be losing a bunch of this image. So like with this guy here, I'm going to be losing all of this here, and there's going to be a lot less of this ear here. On some of these, on something like this, oh god, if I can get it in camera, something like this, I'll be losing pretty much all of this white part in seam allowance. So what I should have done yesterday, instead of pinning these all together, was I should have just flipping sewn them together and saved myself a step. I can't sew the entire 6 together, but I can sew 3 and 3, which is something that's going to make more sense further down the line. If you haven't quilted before, it will end up making sense why I'm sewing 3 and 3 together. Right now, I'm just looking for the foot for what I'm doing. Sewing machines come with different feet for different functions. And this one that I had on here, I must have been doing a zipper last time. I don't remember, but that's okay. This is a standard foot that I'm putting on. Come on. This is a really easy thing to do. I realize from the way that I'm struggling, it looks like it's not, but it is. I'm just a struggler. So yeah, what I'm going to be doing today is sewing all of these pieces together, and because there's no good camera angle, I may know how to get a good camera angle later. I can't do it today. It's going to involve rearranging the room some, but you just have to assume that my desk is absolutely covered with all of these doodads, and I'm going to be sewing them together. So if y'all are watching and working on a project, let me know what you're working on. I'm just going to be doing this for the next couple hours, and it's pretty mindless. So if you want to chit chat, we could chit chat, or I could just kind of silently deal with this machine. I am quilting, obviously. My sewing machine is a Brother CS6000i. It's a really good but really affordable machine. It's basically the Project Runway machine, the one that they, they product place. I'm doing something dumb here. But it doesn't have the brand marking on it. It's missing like 2 features or something. Neither of which have ever affected me. But it does have on it is a threader. That's what I was doing there. It is computerized, which is great. Sewing machines used to make the most terrible clunking sounds. As you switch the settings, now it just makes a happy, pleasant little beeping sound. I'm going to work on this guy first. Yeah, so the thing with quilts is in a regular fabric. I don't know if I can demonstrate because this is not a normal fabric that I'm wearing. But usually the seam allowance is quite a hefty amount. Usually it's like 5/8 of an inch. With quilting, you're using these little tiny bits. You end up with like way too much fabric jammed behind it. You can always feel where the seams are. You end up with way too much of that. So for quilting, you do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And your sewing machine, no matter what you're using, should have some sort of a setting for that. If it doesn't, though, there's some people will like tape a piece of cardstock where the 1/4 inch is so they can see it better. But for this machine, because it's computerized, it automatically, I just set it to 37 is the setting, and away I go. Okay, I'm gonna completely dismantle these as I do them. I know this is insane that I'm just completely redoing everything that I did yesterday, but you know what? This is gonna make it better further down the road. I'm gonna be able to see better what I have. And of course, the first stitch is always the most nerve-wracking, but I've got that set up. I've got purple thread in here because that was what was already in here. They make a big deal about like matching that shit. I don't care. It's thread. And then this machine, again, because it's computerized, it has a lot of really clever buttons on it. So I've got a button that drops the needle, and then I have a button that does a back stitch, none of which you can see. But you guys can hear the rhythmic sounds of my sewing machine. And you can watch these things come together as I pull my foot pedal over. There we go. Oh, that camera angle is literally the worst, isn't it? You can see nothing there. I'm going to move that. You guys, bear with me. I'm going to flip that screen over to the other. Oh my God, I still have the wrong message on the screen. One day I'll be good at this. One day. Already that corner looks like shit, but that is me sewing right there. I'm going to hand press these seams. And then I'm going to flip to that other screen again for a second. Hand pressing is just it's exactly what it sounds. It's pressing your seams flat with your hand instead of with an iron. Again, with quilts, you have so many seams that it would be insane to use an iron every single time you need to press it. You need to press them constantly. So that's my first square. It looks like shit. It's okay. Let me Let me take a stab at moving this camera. Oh, geez. Okay. You're probably going to get some like real jacked up shots of my world. It's okay. So what if my initial one was to go in like this. We'll see if this does anything a little bit better. You can at least see you can see the fabric go through at least. Let me do a little bit more of a backup here. This is on like you know what, that's a decent one. This is on like a telescoping tripod. They're terrible. If you have to actually move them, it seems clever because you can move it in like whatever direction you want, but they're terrible. Okay. Already, I'm having buildup at the corner issues. I could have gone and knocked the corners off of all of these. Basically, I could have gone and chopped off that little bit right there, which would make all of this easier. But again, I'm winging this without looking at directions. So there is a first little panel of kitties. I can actually see now how much has been cut off if you compare it to one of the original pieces. I don't know how well you could see it, but there's a lot of color right here that is completely gone on this. So that's exactly why I'm doing this now, because I'll be able to see better what I'll actually, like what the patterns will actually be once I get this done. I just want to make sure that I am continuing to sew these in the right part, because I do have a bad habit of sewing the wrong edges together and then having like one real jacked up square in the middle of it. I'm gonna have to go back. Sandy and I did a Crafternoon where I had like, I somehow found like the perfect angle so that everything was visible. And now I have no idea what that angle was, and I feel like I just need to find it again. machine also has an option to go completely foot pedal free. But there's actual like buttons on it that you can auto stitch with. It's, you know, it's not necessarily good for quilting most times because what we're doing is usually so finicky, but it is a nice other option. I've used it for like really long stitches when quilting. You know, when I'm doing, actually, it's really nice for binding, as long as you're good at binding. I know that's a weird way of saying it, but with binding, if you're decent at it, you can pretty much fly through it without having to stop and reset so much. If you do have to stop and reset, then it's certainly not the feature for you. Okay, so that is our first square, and I'm going to leave him, or motif, I'm going to leave him right there, and I'm just going to stack the other ones on top of it, and then we will deal with the layout later. I should, in the next couple of days, be getting a guest for this show. And hopefully at that point, we'll be able to chit-chat and have like two different things going on the screen. So if one is less interesting, like this, there'll be something more interesting on the other screen. But the friend that I invited today couldn't make it. She had to work today. I thought maybe if I smash this down enough, you can see under my machine, but also the table. And that was insane. That was a terrible idea. This is going to be, this entire show is going to be me fighting with this damn machine, or with this damn camera. Yes, I am drinking coffee right now. With a cat-themed mug. I promise I'm not like a complete psycho. I do love cats, but not like in some really excessive way. We have 2 cats, and that is plenty of cats for me. I just really like cat-themed things. Like, I feel like we all need to grab onto some sort of a theme, and mine is cats. So the funny thing about this one that I'm doing right now is it's this one that I demonstrated as how I was going to lose a bunch of this white on the edge. So that was part of why I was sewing these all together right now. That won't, what I'm doing right now obviously didn't help that any, because where the white is lost is when it ends up getting like connected with with this guy because that's what's going to end up happening here. Um, that's okay. I'm still getting a better idea. I don't know. It's a learning experience. That's it. It's just a dang learning experience. Sewing machines have a little thread cutter on the end of them. If you're wondering why I keep swiping the fabric on that end. Okay, so there is motif number 2. I'm going to lay it on top of this. I'm going to kind of stagger them so when I go to separate them, I don't have weird issues with grabbing the wrong one. There we go. And I'm going to do this one next. This was the one that I commented on yesterday. Had almost a potato cat or a croissant cat in the middle of it. We'll see what happens once I sew it. Excuse me. Okay. So that is definitely making a crazy little thing right there. I have a feeling that this is just going to end up being a real weird looking quilt, and that's okay. Okay, so I have that background in physics and just like this general obsession with numbers. So with that in mind, I do love how this guy turned out. Look at how weird that thing is, but that's okay. That's okay. I love it. So anyways, with that in mind, with my number obsession in mind, this was the third one down, and there are 21 total, which means I am 1/7 of the way through. I'm gonna go for these Siamese cats. So here, this is a good example of that difference that it makes with that seam allowance taken out. I had mentioned before that we were going to lose some features of cats. And right here, you see that if you compare this guy, if you compare this piece to this piece, you've got this eyeball here that is gone on this. So that is a big reason for why I'm doing this. And of course, the bigger thing for me is colors that I'm losing, because I am more worried about colors than like eyeballs. But it is still good to know how each of these are going to turn out and how cat-like they're going to turn out. And most of these are definitely getting a little warped as I work with them. So what I'm going to do when I'm done getting all of these together, which obviously is going to be a while, but once I get these all together, I think I'm going to press them all, which unfortunately means that I need to unearth my, oh, you know what? I could just put a pad down, because otherwise I have to unearth my ironing board. And Lord, I don't want to do that, but these things are so small that I can just put a towel down on this table and do it that way. You'll actually be able to see that one better. Which way does that go? It goes like that, so that connects there. Yep. I am trying when I sew these to not sew into where other stitches were. And that will help me get all of these laid flat as well. After this first couple, I realized that I was doing something really wrong. Basically, if you sew over another stitch that's already there, instead of just meeting it or leaving just like a millimeter of space between them, it causes all the fabric underneath that stitch to just seize up. It's real ugly. Okay, so there is, I like how that one turned out. Although it's funny, he kind of looks like a pug with his face truncated like that. Slightly pug-like. Okay, go for this handsome boy here. If you were not watching the show yesterday, just know for the record that some of these kittens have been named. I haven't done any of the named ones yet. This one's just handsome boy, but that's not really a name. And also, I am absolutely not crazy. I guess there's kind of that thing where like I'm doing something like this, and especially now when there's nobody chatting with me, I just kind of, you're just kind of getting my stream of consciousness, which apparently I can't pronounce, and that's okay. I do have a stutter. It's funny with the stutter that I don't really notice just how bad it is until I go back and watch the feeds for these. And probably nobody notices it because people do. I just did it because people do, like everybody, whether they have a stutter or not, does occasionally do it. But I constantly say or whatever between my words. There is a point where it goes well beyond what a normal person would say, how often they would say it, and that is also indicative of a stutter. The tongue-tied is somewhat as well, and obviously the fact that I repeat words a lot. Those two I notice a lot more. Of course, when you get tongue-tied, when you get stuck on a word and you just can't get the word out, that one's real obvious. The repetitive is a little bit less obvious, but I do not notice myself making those little interjection sounds, the ums and the us, until I watch my videos on replay, and then it gets really aggressive. And if you're listening to this right now, you might be thinking, I don't even know why I said that. If you're not listening to this, then I'm not talking to you. If you are listening to this, you're probably not noticing it at all right now. And that is because I am putting a ridiculous amount of effort into not doing it. There it is. There it is. Also part of a stutter, once it starts, it doesn't stop until you do like a full-on reset. I don't even know what I was trying to say then. That's okay. I have a stutter. Oh, if you're aware of it, you really can put a lot of effort into preventing it from happening. So a lot of not very good people claim that Joe Biden is demented or has Alzheimer's because of the way he talks. Now, the thing is that I'm never going to refute a statement like somebody potentially has early onset, I guess it wouldn't even be early onset, but early stages, dementia or Alzheimer's, because I don't know their medical records and it's not something that's easy to diagnose. But the way he talks is absolutely not indicative of that. It's indicative of a person who has a stutter. So usually when you listen to him, he sounds totally fine. And I feel like, oh wow, this is just causing, is this camera been rocking the entire time? Oh, I'm going to have to use a different camera rig in here next time because that is bobbing like crazy, isn't it? Oh gosh. Oh gosh, I am so sorry if you're trying to watch this and like getting seasick from the constant bobbing. Okay. Plans for tomorrow. The temptation to return this camera mount is now much stronger because I didn't realize it was doing that before now. And that does make it pretty much worthless. I should have just gotten the damn one that I have on my other camera. Except the problem is that This camera that I'm using in here, it's kind of an inferior camera. It is an inferior camera. I don't know why I said kinda. It absolutely is. It's like the 320 series, and the one in my bedroom is the like 910 series, I think. But this one doesn't have like the proper mount thing. It's meant to just be propped up on top of a monitor. It doesn't even prop up on top of a laptop, okay, which is ridiculous. So I realize that most laptops have built-in computer or cameras, but this is certainly a better camera than those. So, well, anyway, because of that, I can't put it on that other tripod that I have, that other mount, because it doesn't have like the little screw base on it. It just has this weird clip that doesn't actually clip. There's no spring or anything on it. With this particular mount that I'm using, or tripod, it just happens to be shaped perfectly that I can hook that clip into it, and it kind of force it slightly, and it will lock. That guy is so majestic, and he is all face on there. Look at how much face I got on there. I'm sorry I talk like this. I don't mean to be like this. But yeah, so I guess that's part of my tripod situation. Hopefully one day I will make enough money filming myself doing stupid things that I can get a proper camera rig. And find a good place to mount it in here. Yeah, I'll have to go through that old footage and see what I did. Anyways, sorry, that was a whole ass sidetrack, but I'm assuming anybody who is watching this has sat through my shows before and knows what I do. Back to Biden. So I feel like a lot of people don't understand that he has a stutter because of the way that stutters are perceived, what people think a stutter is. So it's like, to go to a more extreme example, if you look at Tourette's, there's of course this belief, if you have Tourette's, that it's only Tourette's if you are cursing or yelling bomb on a plane. That's not, that can be how Tourette's manifests, but it's more likely any other sort of tic. The reason that the cussing and the bomb thing does happen is because somebody with Tourette's, typically, obviously this is not, first of all, I'm not a psychologist. I just know things. So if I'm wrong at all, please don't get into an argument because the way I describe something, this is in conflict with how somebody else describes it. But as far as I understand, I don't have Tourette's, but as far as I understand it, the word gets stuck in their head and they can't stop saying it because they put so much focus on it and it's just there. And of course, there are those words that stand out that are more likely to get stuck in their heads. Those words are words you're not supposed to say. They are curse words. They are slurs. They are words that will have you arrested by air marshals. So, obviously, that being said, people with Tourette's it's not just those words that they say. It can be anything that gets stuck in their head for any reason. Some of them, it's always the exact same thing. And most likely, and my guess, this is absolutely an educated guess on this. My guess is because it happened once and somebody had a reaction to it that stuck with the person who has Tourette's, whether that reaction was fair or not, you know, it could just be that somebody glanced at them in that moment. You know, those moments just stick in your head sometimes, however inconsequential they are. And then that becomes the word forever. They also have like physical tics, you know, movements and stuff like that. So that's Tourette's. Tourette's has this public concept that it's just cursing and saying bad words at the wrong time or uncontrollably, when actually there's like a lot more to it. The same with OCD, which that is something that I know a lot about because I have OCD, and I didn't know I had OCD until I was well into my adulthood, because I had that same public opinion that everybody else does, that OCD is being a clean freak, and I'm anything but. If you ever get like a good scan of my, oh yeah, you guys see my bedroom all the time. You're seeing like the best angle of my bedroom, and I believe everybody can still tell it's a total shit show. I have terrible OCD. I have moderate is what they say, but like that's a clinical diagnosis, not, you know, somebody just saying they have it. Like moderate is it's a term of value here. Okay. So that's Tourette's, that's OCD, that's stuttering. There is that public misconception that somebody with a stutter, the sole component of it is literally stuttering. That's two different things. Stuttering and having a stutter are two different things. People who have a stutter will stutter, don't get me wrong, but that one act of kind of getting tangled up on a word is not the sole sign of a stutter. And also, if you are aware of it, you do have control over it, unlike many of these other things. It's really hard, obviously, with Tourette's. Once you're aware of it, you have the exact opposite result of what you want. OCD, it doesn't matter that I know that I turned that goddamn oven off, that I can literally retrace my steps and remember the exact moment, remember like the words that were coming out of my mouth as I turned off that oven. Nothing will stop me from that. But I can, as I am talking, actively control my stutter. Also, stutters are situational. Depending on the situation you are in, you may or may not stutter. It's like asthma, something else that I know a bunch about. Some people have asthma attacks because of allergies. Some people have asthma attacks because of physical strain. Some people have asthma attacks because of stress. I'm sure I'm missing other ones there, but those are just some examples. So, stutters are the same way. Depending on the situation that you are in, you are more or less likely to stutter. Also, again, because it's not just repeating that word or that sound, and it's not necessarily having that full-blown, cannot get past it. Ooh, did I sew that wrong? No. I just flipped it wrong. Okay. Joe Biden is a public speaker. He has a stutter, and he's also spent his entire life in politics. He's done as well as anybody can with a stutter to control it. And there's not a whole lot you can do, but you can do it, and he has. Certainly it is something that the more you work on it, the better you can be. There's no cure for stutters. Now, if you get it as a child and it goes away, yes, you no longer have a stutter. You're fine. But if you have it as an adult, there's nothing that can be done at that point. And that one, I mean, there's nothing that can be done to get rid of it forever. Again, you can just get like really, you can teach yourself the mindfulness, but you have to babysit every single word you say. And that's not practical for most people. It's also why Biden doesn't do as well in debates. He can give a speech perfectly fine, but that's because in a speech, he's literally able to just like read those words in front of him and do it. I feel like the majority of people with a stutter, that situation does work best for them. No, I guess not. I guess that is a bold statement. People with a stutter who are comfortable speaking publicly. That's a better way of saying it. If I'm reading off a piece of paper or a teleprompter or whatever, I've never had a teleprompter, but I assume it's the same, or off a screen, then I tend to do better, especially if I can rehearse it. If I know what those words are. If I'm just doing a cold read, no. A cold read is a disaster. I'm sure you guys have probably seen me at some point. If you're a regular watcher of my shows, you've probably seen me just like read something I just wrote and have complete disaster happen because of it. But if I know what I'm going into, or like read out of a book, but if I know what I'm going into, if I've read it before, especially if I have said it before, then I'm fine. People with stutters also have a really bad habit of being really dramatic about it. Like when you're good at catching yourself and preventing it from happening, as soon as you do it, because it's, again, it never really goes away. It's always going to be, a risk. I stutter every day, no matter how skilled I am at talking. And I feel like I do talk fairly well. I'm comfortable with it. But, oh God, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, but most of us who stutter tend to, or like stutter and also have a fairly good control over it, tend to get really dramatic when it happens. Like we call ourselves out for it. It's probably just like a nervous tick. Or like, for me, I feel like I'm not unusual in this aspect. For me, I feel like I do it because I don't want anybody to think that I don't know what I'm saying. That, like, I don't want anybody to call my education, or again, now there is that like constant fear that somebody is going to think that I'm mentally not just like unintelligent, but mentally unfit because of how Biden has been getting treated for this. So Biden does not have the luxury every time he stutters of saying, hey, I'm sorry, I stuttered. It's fine. This is what I was trying to say. Let's move on. He has to just kind of plow through it, which I get. I've been there. I don't I don't disrespect that strategy. But for me, I do have that luxury of being able to put my hands up and say, give me a minute. I'm almost there. Let me reset my sentence. Let me, let me do what I can. Or just simply saying, there I go with my stutter, going, again, like I just did. Again, there I am calling myself out very dramatically. I feel like that's something that a lot of people with stutters who have them really fairly well controlled or are fairly comfortable with them, we kind of all do that same thing. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just a stutter. I know what I'm talking about. I've apologized for it in the middle of a eulogy. And not it wasn't, I guess it wasn't a eulogy, it was a reading. And at a funeral, obviously. I wouldn't have said eulogy if it wasn't a funeral. But so I was doing a reading at a funeral. And if I remember correctly, I wish my buddy Sarah was watching right now because she would know exactly what it was because she was sitting there watching me do this like a psycho. I'm doing the reading and there's something, I don't know. It was some ridiculous biblical passage. I'm not trying to shit on religion, but the friend who passed away was my roommate, and he was absolutely not a religious person. But with funerals, it's really more for the family and friends, particularly the family, than it is for the deceased. Mom wanted a biblical reading, so we did a biblical reading, and somehow I was the one selected for it. I'm not Christian. That's okay. So I'm doing this reading, and there is a part in it where I believe, I'm going to say it was probably from Revelations. If I remember correctly, that is the Crazy End Times Bible book. And it was something, I remember there being archangels in it because I asked the minister or whoever the person was the correct pronunciation of it. You guys will notice that I pronounce it wrong all the time, and I literally write about them. It's weird because in the books I just refer to them as the arcs, but like that is real funny how it's spelled. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going off on a weird tangent. Let me reel that back in. So there is a part in this reading where an angel, I don't know if it is an archangel, because this was 10 years ago. Welcome to Stutters, remembering things from that long ago that literally nobody else remembers except you and your best friend. And she only remembers it because it was me who did it. So there's a part where that angel, archangel, whatever, is leading, I'm assuming, people into heaven. Somebody is going into heaven first. And the line involves preceding into heaven. I said proceeding into heaven. I'm doing a reading. Like, I am enunciating this clearly for you now, so you can see what the difference is. But when I'm saying it, what I would have said was preceded into heaven. What I should have said was preceded into heaven. What I actually said was proceeded into heaven. No. Nobody knew that I said the wrong thing. Not to be that guy or anything, but I feel like most of the people who were there would not have been educated enough, at least with this sort of thing, to fully comprehend that I had even said the wrong word. I'm not saying that most people don't know the words proceed and precede. That, like, if you said precede to somebody, like if you wrote down the word precede, they wouldn't understand that that was a different word from proceed. But I don't think most people would have ever noticed that. Even I don't think most people have the word precede in their minds enough to have really like caught any difference between them. Also, it's a funeral. I really don't think anybody at a funeral is going to care about this one word. I'm not a minister. I'm not preaching. I'm just a girl reading a Bible passage. Well, grieving. This was my roommate. I lived with him for almost 2 years. We had gone through some rough times together. We had stuck it out. Our lives were in a really good place together. And then he did something real dumb on his motorcycle. That was a really weird way to end that whole thing. I feel like it now sounds like I am grieving heavily over here as I sew. Not. I said like that Forrest Gump. That's all I gotta say about that moment. I saw. I don't even know what it was. There are so many social medias now. And like I can't even tell you if it was a video or like a feed or what, but I saw something the other day where a Gen Zer was watching movies from the 90s, and had a lot to say about how pretty much all of those movies could not be made now. They'd be the most offensive thing ever. And Forrest Gump definitely came up on that list. And it's crazy how much time has changed in the last 20 years. Like now I wonder if, our parents' generation, I'm 40, my parents are 70-ish. And I wonder if they had that, like, if the change between 20 and 40 for them was as dramatic as it was for us. It's hard. It's really hard. I don't know. This is a really weird topic for me to go into, but I'm just kind of talking to myself right now as I sew. So that's okay. It's really hard. Like, I know, I understand. I in no way disagree that Forrest Gump would be really offensive now. So much of those movies absolutely would. I get mad every time. Like, some of my favorite movies I get really mad at now. I get mad at Cruel Intentions because it has the evil gay trope in it. And there was like this thing that happened in the 90s where they were trying to get more gay representation. And somehow it ended up being that gays were like low-key villains. There was something just slightly, they were friends, but they would do some shitty things. And that bothers me. It bothered me then, I think. And of course, as a lesbian, there was no lesbian representation. We had, flipping Sarah Michelle Gellar and Selma Hayek kiss, but they weren't gay. Although I kind of was her character bi? I don't remember. I don't think it was. That was Cruel Intentions too. And we had Wild Things, Naomi Campbell. I'm blanking on the other girl's name. Kissing and that. Not cool. So we had these like little flickers, but they weren't. They were that representation of lesbians or non-lesbians, of college girls exploring their sexuality. But they're gonna end up getting married to some dude and popping out like 10 kids. Like, it's not college gay isn't gay. And that was all that they cared about. There was so like those were both like huge controversies and things that were referenced over and over again. And then the only actual lesbian character I remember from that time frame, and I feel like it was actually a couple years later, would have been Chasing Amy, which also was fairly shitty to lesbians. Yeah, she was a lesbian, but that was a guy. Yeah. Anyways, so I get, and I totally agree that those things would not fly if they were done now. And the gay jokes. It was mostly like we were better about, I'm going to say we were better about Black people. I don't want to say that we were better about minorities, because I feel like we only cared about Black people. Like, let's show Black people. We have to have Black people, but we didn't really show anybody else. So I'm not going to say we did well there, but we were getting a lot more representation for Black people, at least. So that was an improvement in the 90s. But the gays, it was Bad News Bears with the gays, which is funny because also like my favorite gay movie of all time, The Birdcage. Everybody loves The Birdcage. That was from them. But yeah, so that was the 90s. I guess you probably couldn't do The Birdcage now either. We all love The Birdcage. I don't know anybody who has seen Birdcage even now. Oh Lord. My roommate just asked me if I have the news on, so I'm gonna switch to a news feed if my camera will let me. Oh my God, will you stop? Oh, I think it's just. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put an actual. I don't know. I tried to go to Yahoo because it's what is the easiest to click on, and that failed. Oh, is this challenge happening? Oh, holy shit. Sorry, that was really close to the camera. Protesters have sieged the Capitol building. I'm trying to get this on my screen to see what's going on. And of course, my computer is fighting me the whole way.
We're told also that the Capitol Police have instructed the lawmakers themselves, the whole building is in lockdown, to stay where they are. So both chambers are now in recess. They have paused this certification of the electoral votes. They are sitting in their chambers as this situation, unprecedented situation, escalates. Protesters inside the building somehow have gotten in, creating a very tense and scary situation in which staff members and others have been told to go into their offices, stay on their offices, lock their doors, because they don't know who's in the building, what they have, whether people have weapons, because of concerns that this is going to escalate even further out of control.
Yeah, this is looking at inside. Look at this. These protesters are inside Statuary Hall right now. You see the statues. This is a moment I never saw in my life. These individuals just rush through
Holy
security.
shit.
They are inside Statuary Hall. This is a legendary place where all of us who covered Capitol Hill. It's hard to believe what we're seeing right there. They're just walking through.
And nobody is stopping them. What the fuck?
It's a strange.
This country's so fucked up, y'all.
They're having a good time in Statuary Hall. Jake Tapper, I don't know about you, but this is an incredibly dangerous situation that's unfolding here in the United States.
It's stunning, Wolf. It's absolutely stunning, and it's quite frankly dangerous. President Trump could stop this with one tweet, but instead he's on Twitter attacking Vice President Pence for refusing to go along with his attempt at a coup, at a bloodless coup. We hope it stays bloodless. And you have protesters accosting senators. You have people, members of Congress, being evacuated.
I'm probably not supposed to be sharing a screen like this, but this is nuts right here.
It is a very potentially dangerous situation. I've been in Washington for decades now. I've never seen anything like this. And again, President Trump, if he wanted to, and there is really no reason to think he wants to, he could stop this. He could stop it with one tweet, and he will not, because frankly, he likes this.
I'm not going to argue with that commentary.
Discouraging what we are seeing, the president is encouraging what we are seeing. Just as he has in a much more over way, over and over and over again, with his tweets. Completely irresponsible, and this is the result of that. Unfortunately, as unusual and as terrifying and as surprising as what we are seeing is going on, in a lot of ways, it is one of the least surprising things. What is remarkable that this kind of thing hasn't happened earlier, because that these protesters, who of course have the right to protest.
Okay, so I'm ending that for now. But just so you know, things are real ugly at the Capitol right now. And that's a little scary. I'm going to switch my feed over so I can kind of watch this and see if anything is important that's happening. I mean, obviously this is important what's happening, but oh, whoops, I'm still sharing this stream. But just in case there's like a flashing news alert that happens, I'm going to leave that up there for now. I was talking about something. I don't remember what. This is pretty crazy right now. And they're just letting them walk through. This is nuts. Y'all know that I do try my best not to bring politics into my show too much. I don't like it. I don't want people judging me by my political stance. But this is crazy what's going on right now. and entirely unnecessary. We didn't act like this 4 years ago when Trump got in. And I get that people, for some reason, think that he's done all these amazing things for the country. I just don't see it. But again, I'm gay. I have I've got many minority friends. I have a roommate who has health issues. He's in great health, but he also had thyroid cancer. And he doesn't have a thyroid anymore, so he pays like $500 a month for his insurance. And if he doesn't get his medication, he dies. Like literally, the only thing that is keeping him alive is the medication that I guess like whatever the thyroid produces, the metabolism stuff. You die if you don't have it. People who have hyper and hypothyroidism, they take this medication to help their thyroid. He literally doesn't have one, so that's the only thing that keeps his body thinking that he has a thyroid. So, and now, and he's a war vet. He has severe PTSD from his time in Afghanistan. He doesn't get any help for that. They say he's fine, basically because he has a job and a house, and he's not actively trying to kill himself. They say he's fine. And if he had gone through the VA for his cancer, he'd be dead. They basically said the first availability to get you into any sort of treatment at all, I think it was to get the thyroid removed, but like because of how aggressive or whatever it is, that was the only treatment available. They said it was going to be 7 months before they could do it. So he went to a private doctor, and the private doctor gave him, I believe it was 4 months to live if he did not get that removed. So the VA was literally going to just kill him. So I have really strong feelings about our government, and all of this bullshit from the Republicans about how they're here to help the vets. They're not. Nobody is here to help the vets. Nobody helps the vets. They help the boomer vets. My dad is in Florida, where boomer vets go to die, and he's in and out of the VA in a couple of minutes. Ken has to go to the VA once a year. If Ken doesn't go to the VA once a year, he loses all access to the VA. That is another super fucked up thing. A vet who isn't able to go to the VA every single year is kicked out of the program, basically. This is somebody who fought for our country. This is somebody who did 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was a sharpshooter. He's got major mental health issues from it. And then he almost died of cancer. And the government basically said, fuck you. Fuck you, we don't care about you. We don't care about you. We don't care about your problems. You're in Atlanta, and Atlanta is very blue. So fuck you. We only treat red vets. We only treat boomer vets. So sorry, I didn't mean to go all on that. But obviously it's something that's really close to home. Also, he's drowning in medical debt. And that is, of course, with the US's wonderful health insurance system, but paying for his health insurance as a vet who should have access to the VA. What he actually has is a $6,000 a year bill just to have $70,000 in debt. And people talk about how amazing America's health system is. Not people outside of America, of course, because everybody outside of America knows that is the biggest piece of shit. Yeah. Sorry, strong feelings about it. Flipping over, nothing too dramatic has happened. They have called Warnock in the Georgia elections. They have not called the Ossoff Purdue, but Ossoff is in the lead, and that lead is getting bigger. But they have already gone ahead and called Warnock. And I don't like the fact that it looks like all three houses are going to be controlled by the Democrats. I don't like it because there is a reason that system is in play. That's not how the system is designed to be. But the only house that I would have been, or the only place that I would have, is it house? Yeah, the only house that I would have been okay with them taking, the Republicans taking, is the lower house, the House of Representatives. And that's entirely because of Mitch McConnell. If not for Mitch McConnell, I would have been fine with giving the Republicans the Senate. But Mitch McConnell is just as duplicitous. Is that the right word? I believe it is. Just as duplicitous. You know what I'm trying to say. As Trump. He is just as responsible as Trump for this current situation. So, with that in mind, the only way that we were going to be able to stop McConnell, two people needed to be stopped, and it was Trump and McConnell. The only way we were going to stop Trump is obviously to elect him out. And the only way that we were going to be able to stop McConnell, I mean, we could have stopped McConnell two ways. But the first way was electing him out of office. And we certainly couldn't do that. Kentucky had to do that, and Kentucky didn't do it. So, not even close. Kentucky didn't even try to do it. So, the only other choice we had was to take control of the Senate. So I don't like that we have all three, both houses, the legislative branch, and also the executive branch. But unfortunately, this is what had to be done to get rid of McConnell and Trump. And right now, I'm real proud of the state. I'm from a blue state. Before here, I did briefly live in Ohio, and Ohio is a purple, I think. I feel like it's been real red lately, but it was purple. But other than that, I lived in New York and in Delaware, both very blue states. And I never lived in like the part of those states that were red. I don't know, maybe Buffalo. I feel like not, though. I feel like the two, because I lived in Buffalo and Syracuse. They're both cities. They're both on somewhat hard times. I feel like they're both blue. And then Delaware, also where I was at the beach. Beach is always blue. beach is also very gay in Delaware, and it was delightful as a young lesbian. But yeah, then I moved to Georgia, and moving to Georgia, you know, I come here, and I mean, I'm like, I'm going to Atlanta. Atlanta is in the South, but like, according to George Clinton, it's Chocolate City, right? And that sounds to me like it's going to be pretty blue then. And it was, but I wasn't in Atlanta. I was in the Atlanta suburbs. And some of these suburbs are pretty damn red. So I move here, and I am a vegetarian lesbian. And I am pagan. I am a gamer. What else? I had a few things on that list. I had a lot of things dinging me in this area that was a lot less liberal than I was expecting it to be. And the funny thing is that everybody was mostly okay with all of it, except that I was vegetarian. People, they didn't care about any of the rest of it, any of the stuff that actually had some impact on their lives. None of these people are farmers. None of these people raise livestock. The fact that I don't eat livestock doesn't have any impact whatsoever on their lives. But being liberal does. Being gay does to an extent. Not much, but like I could argue that being a gay person has more impact on somebody else's life than being a vegetarian. But people would get like angry, like physically angry at me for being vegetarian. And I mean, I'm sure that I have mentioned this before. It's not something that I really keep secret. And I do post cooking shows occasionally. So I'm certainly open about being vegetarian, but I'm not pushy about it. I'm not that mythical militant vegan who's going to go nuts on you for eating other stuff. And the fact is that I know a lot of vegans. Oh, I vended at music festivals. I was also a dirty hippie. That's another thing. But yeah, I've known a lot of vegans, and I've never really come across one who is anything more aggressive than, you know, just being informative. Some of them are misinformed. But for the most part, they're pretty nice people. They're pretty nice people. You might not like their food. A lot of their food is weird. I say that as a vegetarian. I too think a lot of their food is weird. But most of them just want to live their lives in peace and not have to defend themselves constantly for their food choices. Look at that. That one is Hope right there. That's what that cat is named. There was another block of him. her. I feel like that's a little girl cat. There is another block of her somewhere. Somehow is it this block right here? Yes. This is the other block of hope. This one's real funny because they don't, like, everything about this frame makes it look like it's a different white cat, but really it's just because she's got flowers above her head, but another cat next to her. So anyways, vegans and vegetarians don't think it's funny at all when they cook food for you and they go out of their way to make sure that somebody who does eat meat is going to enjoy it. They make something that is not weird and not weird for the American palate. And they make it maybe with fake meat in it, which drives the cost up. And they spend a whole bunch of time making sure that, like, everything that you need is going to be there. It takes a lot of time to come up with a menu that will make both vegans and omnivores happy. I know this from experience, of course. And for the vegans to be really appreciative of it, as they always are, because most vegans have to fend for themselves. They know this, they're okay with it, but it is certainly nice to know that somebody was thinking of them. So to have the vegans be really appreciative of it, and then for the omnivores to eat it and say, this is really good. But you know what would have made this better? Bacon. If you say shit like that, you're a cunt. You may not realize it because you may be a Gen Xer. And it's rare that I talk shit about Gen Xers because I am borderline between Gen X and, sorry, I'm trying to find my mouse right now. Like, I'm holding my mouse. I know where it is, but I can't find it. There we go. So they completely, I don't know if this was what was going on before, but they did completely evacuate the building, the Capitol building. And what Trump has done is tweeted to say, stay peaceful. But also, they're sieging a government building. Anyways, I am borderline boomer. Or not even close to borderline boomer. I am borderline Gen Xer. On some scales, I am absolutely Gen X. But also, I think because of those other things about me, the fact that I am vegetarian, lesbian, hippie, etc., all of that comes together to mean that I'm pretty solidly millennial in my mindset, even though I am on that line. Which is funny because I feel like what I was talking about at the beginning of this was implying that I am not at all millennial and I don't understand it. Anyway, that is absolutely something that I hear a lot more from Gen Xers than from even the boomers. This would be better with bacon. I guess because with boomers, my parents, when I give them something that's vegetarian that they think is real weird because it's vegetarian, or just because it's weird, I guess, they just kind of exchange that look. You know, that boomer look. This is real good. Wink. But they don't give me any shitty commentary about how I'd be a better cook if I just cooked with meat. Oh no. So this one frame of Hope, the cut was uneven on it. Which I mean, I can only do so much about it, but I have these two that both have their eyes. I don't know what's going to happen to these two yet, but this one has lost its eye. Lame. This one's not going to look nearly as symmetrical as the others. And neither is the one that I'm sewing now. I guess those just like laid funny. I mean, I guess it is. We're talking about literally like 2 to 3 millimeters there. Is the difference between having at least some eye and having no eye. Oh, this one had even less eye. This is going to be a weird one. I'm just going to have this one, these two guys that have a whole bunch of eye, and the rest of them will, and that's okay. Hope 2.0 is sometimes eyed, sometimes not eyed. Completely lost count at this point. Of course, why wouldn't I have at this point? But I do feel like those first three went a lot faster than what's going on now. Well, I've got 7 left. Oh, okay. So I'm 2/3 of the way. I can math this really easy. Actually, I'm not. That was a lie before. Oh, no. I've got one more after this. I've got 8 more. So I'm not quite 2/3 of the way. I am I am 8/21, which I believe is as reduced as that can be. Stay peaceful. Jeez. Sorry, I got distracted by the news again. Protesters are still storming the Capitol. That has not changed. And everybody's just kind of cool with it. Whatever. I'm really excited about what's going to happen once both Warnock and Ossoff are announced. I'm really excited to see how fucking sued the state of Georgia gets again over voter fraud. Now, from my perspective, it's just going to be a sit back and laugh. I don't know if you noticed this, but like, no matter how often people try to claim that vaccines are more dangerous than the diseases they prevent, and how much people claim that the earth is flat, nothing has ever changed, except for, you know, the number of measles cases in the US annually. Nothing else has changed because it's fake. And there's no proof of it. And if you've got any science whatsoever, and like, you know, with the autism thing, the person who initially claimed it literally retracted that statement. But people still stick with it. But yeah, we still teach around Earth, and we still give vaccines, and we still require vaccines in a lot of situations. Because no matter how much you claim something is true, you need to actually prove it in ways that are actual proof and not YouTube videos that are manipulations of facts, or like straight up, I'm going to pretend that this is a fact and you're not educated enough to know the difference. And that's what's happening now with the elections. People are not educated enough to understand the difference between fact and opinion, first of all. I'm continually shocked at how people don't understand the difference. I literally saw something yesterday, the day before recently, where somebody said that it was fake news that all of the hospital beds were filled in whatever location she was at, because she didn't think that that had happened. And that was her only argument. She didn't have any, it wasn't like she was claiming that there's no such thing as coronavirus, or that it was just the flu, or any of those other arguments. She just straight up said that it has to be fake news because she didn't think that they were full. And that's insane. That's insane that, like, just because people don't think it's true, they can automatically label something as a lie without any evidence of it. I think things that are false all the time. And if somebody says, hey, that's wrong, I look it up. That's for anything, whether I, you know, I mean, I feel like I usually assume that I am telling the truth. I go out of my way to tell the truth. But if somebody disagrees with me, and it is a fact-based statement, like, are all the hospital beds in this county full right now? We have resources that we can actually find that out. I don't know if you were aware of that or not, but we do. You might have to like call around or whatever, but you could certainly, in this time of social media, it's not that hard to find that sort of information anymore without having to like do actual hard research. And when I say this time of social media going that way, I don't mean finding somebody who agrees with you and assuming they're correct. I mean, going to the social media of that, in this case, because it's hospital beds, going to the social media of that hospital, going to their Twitter or their Facebook or whatever, and most likely they will tell you, especially in a situation where their hospital beds are full, they're going to be doing everything they can at that point to get you not to go there. So anyway, when a hospital says that all their beds are full, the response from you should not be fake news, because I don't believe that's true. The response should be, oh no, let's do everything we can to avoid having to go to the hospital right now. So this is that one that had that crazy, almost of an owl texture in the middle. So I am excited to see how this one plays out. Okay, so that's got that fun pattern right there. This one's going to be real pretty and real weird right there, and I am excited for it. Oh, police draw guns. I'm going to turn the audio on for a minute.
Armored vehicle heading up there. So there is a tremendous response to what is happening up there before they try to get control of that situation.
Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice, thank you, Martha. Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent. As we're seeing these pictures unfold now, you see it appears that tear gas has been used near the Capitol right there, and we're in a position now to say that, again, something we would never imagine we'd have to say that the National Guard may have to be called in to protect the United States Capitol.
Well, that is going to be looked at, George. What we can tell you is that the Secret Service and the Federal Protective Service are en route to help support the Capitol Police. We're also being told the FBI is going to play a role here today. This is just
I hope they arrest some people.
The notion that they allowed this many people to get that close to the Capitol with such a contentious procedure underway is going to be investigated thoroughly. But right now, George, it's a scramble just to get enough personnel up there to control the situation. We've not yet heard from the Attorney General in terms of what he is doing about the situation. Again, it's all hands on deck to get to the Capitol and try to get the situation under control. And one of the things, George, that I'm being told is that law enforcement, it's a very delicate situation. Some of these people who are meandering around the Capitol don't appear to have weapons, and law enforcement's has to calibrate how do you remove them without making the situation a total free-for-all.
I mean, I feel like for that, you fucking tell them to go, and if they don't go, then you forcibly remove them.
Ran through
Capitol with a gun briefly, but now you have multiple people inside the Capitol and law enforcement simply trying to amass enough personnel to move that crowd outside of the building and to get the people off the steps. They want all those people on those grounds gone as soon as possible, George.
Thank you, Pierre. Trish Turner inside the Capitol on the Senate side.
I'm not gonna lie. If I was there as a spectator, I would be GTFOing once the cops showed up. I would at least be going like, you know, 3 blocks away.
In the presiding officer's chair, really stunning to see this. And he shouted, "Trump! You know, Trump won the election." And just it just
Wow.
scary feeling it is.
Why are they allowing these people in?
Above the Senate chamber, and they're not far from us. I have colleagues who are holding up in the hideaway offices. There's some senators, and they have protesters banging on the door. So it's really scary.
Downtown, sloshing down.
Stay safe inside. I want to go back to Cecilia Vega. Cecilia, just in the last hour, we saw Mitch McConnell warn of people believing in an alternate reality. Right now, they're creating a different kind of reality incited by the president.
Incited by the president is fact, a bald-faced fact, George. Just 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, the president was outside the White House telling these throngs of supporters that he personally, repeatedly over Twitter, invited to this city, told them that the
So I'm gonna do a little experiment right now. I'm gonna put my faith.
And he told them to march.
I'm gonna put my faith in Fox News, and I'm gonna see what they're talking about right now.
This president will go down in history. He has not condemned what is happening in our government right now. He has not called on these protesters. I don't even think we can call them protesters. They are anarchists, to leave this building. He has said to remain peaceful, and that is the only thing we have heard from him and the highest echelons of from his administration as we have watched this go down for some odd 2 hours now. When history looks back on this, and his son at this rally earlier this morning, Don Jr., said, "History will remember." Mark my words, George, history will remember this. This is the legacy of Donald Trump's presidency that we are seeing right now. Never in my life did I think we would be witnessing something like this in our country.
Thank you, sister.
Oh, I'm not allowed to watch Fox News. They don't give you any sort of live coverage on their website, it looks like. So never mind, we're not getting any Fox News. That's sad, because I genuinely was curious. Ever since Fox News and Trump started beefing a little bit, I was feeling like we could start maybe making Fox News a safer place, but no. God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be like browsing through the news right now while I'm live, but Jesus Christ. Okay. So I'm really distracted now. So I wanted to get a little bit further today. I wanted at least to have all of these sewn together today, but I'm going to go. I need to get this news figured out. I need to know what's going on in the world. So I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna go watch some news. I know, real exciting. As I claim that I'm not a Gen X or a boomer, but also my battery is starting to die on my computer. So I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna finish up these couple of guys that I still have to do. And so hopefully tomorrow, because I'm gonna be picking this up again tomorrow, I'll be doing more exciting things tomorrow because I will be doing the layout for this, and hopefully I'll have a better place for my camera and all of that. So I'm gonna leave at this point. You guys have a good day and stay safe out there because it's a little scary out there right now. Between Corona and now apparently we have reached the violent protest phase of the US. I know that we just had violent protests about Black Lives Matter, about all of that stuff, but now we're having violent protests about democracy. So, okay. So I'll leave you guys with that. Have a good day.